Hello, my name's Jamie, and this is my presentation for Humanities 210 of summer 2013 over a painting we've chosen. For my presentation, I've chosen Sunrise. Well, actually, it's called Impression, Sunrise by Monet. Try and give you a little close-up of it here. A little hard with the camera, learning still how this works. There you go. It's the one down there in the bottom right corner. But, I will also be talking about the Impressionist movement, and giving a little brief biography of Monet, because, yeah, so, sorry, this whole microphone and webcam thing's new to me. Bear with me, I promise. This presentation will be worth it. It's good. It's good. Okay, so I'm going to start out talking about the Impressionist movement, and this is where my poster will come in if I can get it to, see if I can get it so you can see all of it here for a second. Okay. Okay. And then this box up here is titled, What is it? Kind of just giving you a brief definition of what the Impressionist movement actually was. And when referring to art, this was a movement in the French painting starting in around the 1870s where artists aimed to capture the impression the scene made on them while paying very close attention to the light and how this light affected the scene. And these paintings often, more times than not, appear to be like a sketch more than an like actual proper, finished painting. So, and I have a quote from Monet. He said, "These paintings are a spontaneous work rather than a calculated one," referring to the sketch rather than, a actual, you know, finished painting, I don't know if you can see this. There's water lilies, and the middle one is him, like a self-portrait of himself with a beret. But in these paintings you can really see the brush strokes, and, you know, it's not smooth and flowy like paintings of that time usually were. Okay. And then up here, oh, other side. In this box, I'm just kind of giving a brief history. You can't really read it too well, I don't think, but I've sent you the PowerPoint thing that I used to make it so you can actually read it and stuff. But the first exhibit of the Impressionists was in 1874, but I mean their works have been seen in other places such as the Salon des Refuges. Sorry for my pronunciation there, I just butchered it. Since about 1863. The Impressionists borrowed their name from Monet from the painting Impression Sunrise, which is the one I've chosen. It's down here in the corner. And the formative years of this movement were in about the 1860s, and during this time possibilities such as using a light palette, working in the open air, and close analysis of the landscape were explored. The work of the Impressionists and their habits in creating their works of art were not really accepted at first. Some of these habits, like the close attention they paid to light on their subject, and the time of day they chose to paint, which was clear sunny afternoons, and even painting outside was almost like unheard of. So they weren't accepted at first because of this. It was just change, and change isn't usually accepted that very well at first. But slowly but surely this movement began to gain success and recognition starting in the 1880s. But by this time, most people, had moved on from this style, and it was more of a less common style of painting to have. So, and then some, important painters from this Impressionist movement include Monet, Morisot, Casset, Bazille. So, and then I've got a little quote. Well, it's actually not a quote. It's more of just a couple sentences that I found really good in helping to explain this movement that I found in an old textbook of my mom's from when she was in a humanities class titled Art, A History of Painting, Sculpture, and Architecture. which if you ever need this book for anything, it's really good. It's got everything in here. So, but it said the Impressionist movement. Well, okay. Every tradition of European painting seemed to be thrown aside, completely out the window. Not only from not only form, but also substance itself had vanished, meaning that they were just painting landscapes, not, the usual portraits or, there's like a person in the painting. And then this sentence referring to Impression Sunrise by Monet, it says, this picture was a mere collection of colored streaks and blobs on a light blue ground. Well, the Impressionist movement seemed to, you know, they got away from, smooth painting. Like, you could see their brush strokes. I wish I could zoom in on these paintings a little bit more on the video, but sadly the quality's not too great on this webcam, so you'll have to wait till you look at the PowerPoint pictures I've sent you, and you'll be able to see for sure, I promise. Okay. Next, I'm going to give a brief little biography of Monet, and he was born on November 14th, 1840 in Paris, and he moved to Normandy with his family on to the coast when he was about 5 years old. And there his family ran a shipyard kind of shipping business and a grocery business. And here is where he kind of started painting and gained reputation as a caricaturist, artist. And that was when he was about 15 years old, according to the Britannica Encyclopedia. But against his parents' wishes, he went back to Paris and decided, he was going to work at, excuse my pronunciation, Académie Suisse. But he worked there for free, and just did painting. And, he met a lot of good artists that really influenced his style and, how he would paint, in the future. I mean, some of these artists include, like, Pissarro and Bowden, and Bowden was who introduced him to the, idea of, hey, let's go paint outside, It's kind of crazy to think nowadays, you see people, like when I was at IU, there'd be people in art classes outside sketching all over the campus. And back then that was just like, oh no, he's going to go paint outside, what's wrong with him? Like, there's got to be something wrong, but no. So that's how we started painting outside. And then, so that's how we kind of got his start in painting. I don't know what that was. Oh, my computer's going to die. Oh my gosh. Okay, but Monet was an impressionist, and most of the subjects in his paintings were landscape. There was the occasional portrait, or, he did the self-portrait of himself, which I have on this poster. I'll try and give you, I think you got to look at it earlier, so. But according to the Encyclopedia World Biography, he developed a real great sensitivity to the light and like the atmosphere and the color of his, subjects, which was normally the landscapes. And this really like captivated his imagination, and and this really is what made his paintings into what they are. And kind of towards, like the middle of his life, more towards the end, he did a series of paintings like such as the water lilies, which I have on my poster, that were, all from his garden. And then all of them were like of the exact same subject. Maybe, like a slightly different spot in the garden. But I mean, there may be a couple paintings of the exact same thing, but they're different because of the way the light was playing on like the water and the lilies and all this, everything that surrounded that, which I find to be pretty cool. The same subject, but it can look completely different. It's kind of cool. And then more towards the end of his life, after these series of paintings, he began working on 12 large canvases of the water lilies, which, this wasn't easy for him. He was getting old, we get old, our vision goes bad, it's just, getting old's not fun. And so his last 2 decades of his life, according to the Encyclopedia of World Biography, he suffered from poor health, had double cataracts, and by the 1920s, which was pretty much near the end of his life, he was pretty much blind, which, you know, that's kind of hard for, a painter to be blind and, still be painting, but he tried anyways. But, so, about 6 years later, he died on December 5th in 1926 in Giverny, which is where he, finally settled down towards, middle of his life. Bought that, I think it was an old farmhouse, and this is where he had his exotic gardens that were beautiful from, the paintings I've seen. I'm gonna say they're really pretty. And this is where, like, the water lilies were painted. So, okay. Next, I'm gonna talk about the actual painting. So, which I showed you earlier, but I'll give you another look at the paintings real quick. See, there's the, well, maybe. There's the water lilies there in the bottom corner. And in the middle is actually a self-portrait of Monet with his beret on. It's pretty cool. And then this one right here. This is the one I'll be talking about. This is Impression Sunrise by Monet. So, this painting, I don't know if you could see it when I put it up there because this is really hard to see on this thing, is all about, it's like the shipyard that, when his parents and him moved to like the Normandy coast, this is what he saw one morning, and this is where this painting was done. But I mean, you can see the sun rising and the light reflecting off the water, boats. There's a couple people on this middle boat that's, more toward, it's in the middle, more or less. And in the, off in the distance, you can see what maybe, maybe they're boats, you know. It's kind of hard to tell, but you can use your own imagination to, like, you know, whatever you want it to be. But just the way the water, shows the light reflecting off it is just beautiful to me. And then this painting was 19 by 24 inches on canvas, and this is a representational painting. And as you can't really see too well here. I need to scoot back so you can see me. That'd probably be good. But you can see the brush strokes very clearly in this painting, especially down towards the bottom where there's the darker colors just kind of on the water. You can really see those. And then the colors he uses in this are very vibrant. So I'll go back here so you can see me. That's probably better. But I mean, the colors he uses in this painting are really, like, the orange especially just pops off the page. And, yeah, some people, back then painted with a lot of color, but the Impressionist movement is really what, gave the really big pop of color, like bright, very saturated colors. And the space is kind of, I mean, it's used fairly well. Down in, like, the bottom right-hand corner, there's not a lot. I mean, there's water, just there, but it's kind of like, it's almost empty to me, really. But, I mean, it's part of the painting, it works. He did good with it. It works. And, yeah. Yeah. And he did this painting in 1873, which was, a little bit before, like, the actual, the first Impressionist exhibit. So, and he didn't get really, like, this painting didn't, like, he didn't paint it and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is the best painting I've ever seen. Critics, kind of just snuffed it off as, oh, it's just another painting, it's a nobody, But, I mean, it took, quite a while, it was 1880s, they began getting a lot of recognition over this movement in the paintings. So, which is kind of unfortunate because it really is a pretty painting, but it's just this kind of painting, it wasn't accepted back then. And like I said, this is an oil painting on canvas, and oil paint is made of pigments mix of pigments, linseed oil, varnish, and turpentine, and the artist could, decide, how thick or how thin they wanted the painting. So it's kind of up to them how the mixture went. And these kinds of paintings, like the dark lines I talked about earlier down towards the bottom that are in the water, like it was more of like layering the colors to give the effect he wanted. So like the dark colors, that would be the last layer. And then, so like I said, his technique, he uses big brush strokes, is outside, he pays attention to the light, loves color. And most of his paintings are like this. I mean, the color even in his self-portrait of himself is pretty, pale. Along with the water lilies, the green in that is very, you know, very popping. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to plug in my computer. I didn't realize I was down to this low, so I will not count this time as part of my presentation. I'm terribly sorry. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I really am sorry about that. But like I said, all of his paintings, like, you can tell that he did them. They're very similar in, the techniques and the brush stroke and the color that he used. And, I mean, I can relate to a lot of these paintings because, I mean, I grew up, Knox County, and I mean, I've moved, a couple times, just a couple, but, like, out here at my grandma and grandpa's, which is where I'm at now, fun fact, they have a big pond, there's lily pads in one of their ponds. I mean, I can relate to all, like, the landscape paintings, how their light, like, reflects off the water, or even, like, going to the beach or whatever. I would always make an effort to get up early or, stay up, so I watch the sunrise or the sunset and, just see how pretty it would reflect off the water. Which is why I think I chose this painting. Just because it just, you know, I love going to the beach. It's just something about it, it's really soothing. So, it probably is what made me choose this painting. And then, like I said, these paintings, they're wonderful, but they didn't get acceptance, for quite a while. By this time, no one really was in this style anymore. They'd moved on to a new one. So, but, and then, I know we can't use our book as a actual source, but I'm going to read from it anyways. But it says, and I quote, "Unfortunately, this painting has been stolen and not yet recovered, but many of his paintings still grace museums around the world." So, I mean, how sad is that it's, gone? I mean, we've still got, copies of it, but this painting's gone, you know? We may never actually get it back, which is really kind of sad because it's a really nice piece of artwork. So, but for anyone wanting to learn anything about the Impressionist movement, I would definitely, encourage them to look up stuff like, I mean, our book gives a really good, like, description of, the Impressionist movement and some very prominent Impressionist artists. And I would recommend Monet, to look at his work. It's absolutely beautiful, and I'm really glad I chose him. I've learned a lot from this, and I hope I've been able to teach you a little something, but you're the teacher, so I feel like you know more than I do still, but hope you learned something. And I had fun doing this presentation. I just want to say thank you. It's been fun.